basically, the condition of relationship is you're going to lead to many moments where you're wound on wound, which is basically someone said something, my wound gets reactivated, I lash out, and now I don't matter, no one listens to me, I'm not good enough.
We react.
I can't get anything right. These two wound moments. And then apology is just a salve, a dissolving agent. There's no assignment of blame. Hey, babe, I totally apologize. I said the light is red, and I can see that, you heard it like I was questioning whether you could drive, and I apologize, that wasn't my intention. And it just totally can disarm the ego's sort of armory that just has, latched into place.
Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. This is Mimi, and right next to me is my love, my husband, my baby daddy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. We're so honored today. We have a couple incredible guests. We get to talk about one of our favorite topics in the world, relationships. But without further ado, it is my honor to welcome Ryland and Sarah Engelhart. Welcome to the Medicine Podcast.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for providing the space for medicinal conversations. It's really a beautiful intention, and grateful to be invited to share.
Yeah, that's really our bread and butter of life is, looking for and engaging in medicinal types of discussions and connections with people. So let's jump right in. If you wouldn't mind giving us kind of an elevator pitch story or just explanation of like who you guys are and what you do in the world before we jump into like all things relationships and all the tools that you have to share. Just give us a little insight to who you are.
So who we are? Well, we live in Hill Country, Texas, Bandera, Texas, on a 200-acre ranch called Sovereignty Ranch, which is a regenerative farm and ranch and agro-hospitality event center. And we have 5 acres that we homestead called the Love Homestead right next to that. And we're in partnership with my sister and her husband and their 4 kids. And we have 2 kids, Rumi and Phoenix. And kind of our backstory is I grew up with hippie parents, very out there, exploratory, back to the landers, people who were, had many teachers. They say they drank all the plants and they chanted all the chants.
I love that. That's amazing.
And
we kind of followed.
Exactly. And by the time I was 19, I was kissing the ground. In an ayahuasca experience with the Santa Daime Church, and
we're definitely big seekers.
Yeah. So we amazing sort of parents who were spiritual seekers, entrepreneurs, people who wanted to make the world a better place. That led to the creation of a business called Cafe Gratitude, which is actually the source of how we know each other because of Niels. And
it's the source of how we know each other too. I started working at Cafe Gratitude in Northern California right after my mom had died when I was about 22 years old. I moved up to San Francisco with some friends. And then we met. That was life-changing, beautiful.
And Cafe Gratitude, for those that don't know, you guys are in Southern California?
I have been for the last decade or so, and absolutely love Cafe Gratitude.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, it was, emerged about 2 decades ago as a very innovative, unique, plant-based, vegan, vegetarian restaurant that really had a focus on food as medicine, but also a very deep business ethos and company culture that was very sort of powerful and potent.
A radical love culture.
Absolutely.
A be-love culture. And that was called Sacred Commerce. And there was a book called Sacred Commerce that our folks wrote, along with another book called Kindred Spirit, which is sort of the work that we
study with them and then are sharing.
yeah, that we've sort of been, they've bestowed it upon us to continue to share the legacy of work, which really is, I would say, in a nutshell, how to be the source of love in our relationships versus finding love in the people, the places, and things, or fulfillment, and that love, life is an inside job, and so, we met almost. Let's see, we've been married 14, almost 15 years. 14 years.
Just at our 14th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations!
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. It's flown by. It's wild. Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say that, in running businesses, hospitality, and then our life went into soil and regenerative agriculture. I founded an organization called Kiss the Ground and helped produce a film called Kiss the Ground, another film called Common Ground. I helped produce a film years ago called May I Be Frank, which was another sort of transformational story of healing through food and through psychology and through, attitude and mindset. But I'd say who we are seekers and communicators who are always inspired to create more community and more love and more connection, and how to empower people to have thriving relationships. And so it's actually sort of a brand new chapter that we're just this is actually the first podcast that we've been on where we're actually stepping into facilitators and holders of these distinctions of kindred spirit and offering this work to the broader public. So,
and a little bit about me. I'm a mom. I'm Ryland's wife. He's been married, as he mentioned, for 14 years. And when I met him and the Cafe Gratitude community, it was a truly life-changing experience. I felt like it was a homecoming in the most kind of heart sense, like finding my freaks and geeks that I felt like were my fellow seekers in life, like the people that were not just satisfied with the status quo, but really wanted to discover for ourselves what is true and to have a direct relationship with the divine and live through that. And it was this whole kind of revolutionary experience for me. I've been a singer-songwriter. I studied some psychology and had a little startup for a few years, a women's empowerment startup called Joan of Spark, where we were training facilitators to hold space and facilitate transformational listening, kind of therapeutic sessions. And then just recently co-produced an all-women's event here on the ranch called Divine and Dangerous, which has your yoga, your breath work, your tea ceremonies, but also we had gun safety, we had self-defense, we had wilderness survival skills. So like kind of where those two things meet is part of where I'm really passionate about right now.
Awesome.
You guys are nailing the branding, by the way.
Yeah.
All your naming is just like really
amazing.
on point. And Kiss the Ground, many of our listeners will be familiar.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of like if you looked up anything pertaining to regenerative farming, it's going to come up top of the list. And so many of our listeners will be familiar. And that's so exciting that you continue to use these, what I consider like huge successes as just bridges to next lanes of interest, lanes of impact. And so like, I'm super lit up that you guys are jumping into the relationship space because man, our world is relationships, right? Mm-hmm. Like it is all about how we interact with each other. And I'm constantly reminded like how much our community, not just our romantic partnership, but it's our neighbors, it's the people that we, interact with throughout our life, person to person, that can absolutely shape the way that we feel about our life experience. And so just relationships at large is just so relevant. Maybe talk to us a little bit about, what was it that compelled you to the degree that you quite literally have pivoted, portions of your life into this work. And obviously you've mentioned the fact that Kindred Spirits, this book that your parents, Ryland, wrote, and maybe some of those ethos that have led into this new calling. Walk us through that process for you.
I think it's really worth noting this interesting kind of arc of phenomenon that I've witnessed throughout Ryland's life, that I've been a part of. in my own ways, but really has been beautiful to see on your path, honey, just like being part of Cafe Gratitude, ushering in this, very kind of unusual. He's been at the cusp of, and we've had the opportunity to be at the cusp of a lot of early adopters of certain thoughts and kind of movements, and from Cafe Gratitude, kind of plant-based, like food as medicine, early adopters, and seeing that whole movement grow and being part of that wellspring, to Kiss the Ground regenerative agriculture, just discovering that years back, and then realizing that connection hasn't been made in the public mind yet, like on a large scale. And so like being part of the wave of movement of articulating that, kind of having a soul resonance with something, knowing it's true without needing external validation necessarily, without needing everyone to already know about it, to know that it's a worthy concept, or and then being willing to bring it forward kind of when it's a little hard, even when it's tricky. Ryland recently also did that with around work and around support of a kind of more controversial candidate, RFK, and his work, and being really in support of him, even when it didn't feel easy, or and it's still currently not.
We're big RFK
Not
fans.
controversial in this house.
No,
All
it's
right.
not.
Yeah. So really kick the heat over here.
Yeah.
This guy being
Yeah.
supported publicly. And I think with Kindred Spirit, for me, I kind of like initiated, right, it's time, we've got to share this. Just because, he grew up in his family and they were practicing a lot of these tools and they were really steeped in it. I came from outside in. So I was really impacted by it. Like, hold on, what? Love is an indwelling presence. Hold on. It's not about the external circumstances of our lives. We can't get those right. We can never fully lock down our external circumstances. So the only way to be truly fulfilled is to source from inside. And we can do that in our relationships and be really fulfilled. Hold on. And then living it out in our relationship where, even with that framework, I would say, of a kindred spirit relationship of love as a choice, love as an indwelling presence, we still had our rocky roads. We still had things to, like you guys shared a little bit about your personal story. Things came up. It's hard once you get in there. There's so much unconscious material that presents itself. There's so much wounding, ego, projection, fear, and then just wounds that can take us out of relationship. And I would say there were moments where like it felt a little uncertain in our relationship, but using the tools to get through it is what has really inspired me the most around offering this work. And then seeing it, for me, I see it as another kind of revolutionary step I see the possibility of a lot of people having this framework for relationship and how it could truly change the world if we had this context where instead of separating because we can't work through what's coming up in our relationships, we can choose that love and we can forge love. And then that truly could change the world from my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
But maybe just a quick context. Like, so we're referencing Kindred Spirit as, the book, but then y'all are participating in workshops. Are you coaching with folks? Maybe just break down a little of that context before we get, too much further, just so that we can be able to place some of this.
So Kindred Spirit is a book that came out probably, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And my folks have been leading workshops for probably almost 20 years.
We took a Kindred Spirit workshop early on in our relationship.
That's right.
I love them. Yeah.
And me with some other folks used to lead pieces of the work in the context of sacred commerce, a new view of love. So we've been kind of in the, playing with what is the workshop that is sort of there for us to share. And just in the last 3 months, we actually committed to saying, all right, we're going to take this on. We're going to take this body of work. It's been working within us and working within our relationship and working within, all the endeavors that we've taken on. And really
even using the tools from Kindred Spirit in the endeavors that we've taken on.
Yeah. And I think, again, to just step back to put even a little more context, and I know you said get to what the packages are, but really I think everywhere we go, whether it's a permaculture workshop or a festival or an office or a family, you see and hear the dysfunction in relationship, the inability for people to resolve conflict, resolve what we call wound on wound. And ultimately, we see that people just go, okay, I guess our route is just to get away from each other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which in our context, to get away from each other, you're just deferring the lesson or the pain or the resistance to another day, which ultimately, it's just deferring the lesson versus if there's something in the way of you and a person to experience love, there's work for you to do. And that work is knocking on your door to do it, not saying this is not the right person to do it with.
Love that.
And I would say that probably that's maybe the key distinction. Our marriage was founded on this idea of the search is over. That love is an indwelling presence, and that relationship is an opportunity to share that love with another, while allowing that person to reflect all of our unconsciousness that shows up and tries to get in the way of that love being shared, and oftentimes is blaming the other person for that. And yet the context for us of, if that's in the way of our love, that is the work that there is. There is no other work to do.
Nailed it. So good.
And so, just that framework, and us seeing, like, being 14 years into marriage and going, oh yeah, we can do this forever. Like, yes, we
can do this forever. And after 14 years of putting in the work to come back to love when it's hard, even when it's hard, the fruits of that are like, oh my God, falling in love with this man, deepening our love. Like, it's really fulfilling. It pays off, to do.
Yeah.
Quit.
Sorry, go ahead.
What am I going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, just, piggybacking on what you just said, I see romantic relationships in general, but specifically romantic relationships, as some of the deepest spiritual work that you can do, honestly.
Yes.
But I'm a 6 life path lover, so that's my framework of how I kind of interact and see the world. But I personally believe that, like, relationships are the deepest spiritual work that we can do for ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys have kind of pulled on a few of these threads, what sound like maybe core tenets or principles of your framework for teaching. But maybe we can get into that a little bit. Like, you mentioned wound on wound, which I really like and haven't heard that terminology before. But what are some of the real, like, first principles, first values of the type of relationship work that you really teach?
I'd love to just read a little excerpt from the back of this book, because Tercey's laid out this beautiful framework. And no matter how long you've been doing personal development work, or whether you're new to it, whether you've been practicing a lot of different things for years, for decades, the amazing thing about it is it's still new. It's still in the present moment right now. The work is to be done, presencing love. So it's relevant for all of us. And so here's a little bit of the premise. What if the one we're looking for is really the one consciousness expressing as many? What if love is a presence, a state of mind? What if relationship is about awakening to this realization? What if life is an inside job, and what you're hoping a relationship can fulfill can only be attained in your awareness? In this book, you'll be trained to generate your own love experience, to say the hard things, to create an environment for being transparent, and to create unconditional love in all your relationships. So it's really just putting back the responsibility where we have power. It's not the truth. So disclaimer, this is something we share in our workshops and in the body of this work, presenting this work, Kindred Spirits, with others, is first and foremost, it's not the truth. We don't have the truth, but it's an invitation to try it on like a jacket. If it fits, excellent. If not, you could take it off later. But really just explore, does this resonate? Does this not? So one of the main points is just to bring that power back to ourselves. So your original question of what are some of the foundational tenets of this work? One is love is an indwelling presence. Love is a consciousness that we have the choice to bring into our relationships. We have the choice to bring unconditional love, this radical concept that we could bring unconditional love into all of our relationships. So that's the foundational. Secondly, and I love the way Ryland explains this part, so I'd love for you to share, but that our mind, that our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, our actions, our attitudes are what create our experience. When we become aware of that, then we have the freedom to make the choice. Before, other than that, we're just on habitual autopilot and we're kind of driving blind. We don't know that we can put our hands on the wheel and make a different choice of how it's going to go. What would you add to that?
Who we're being in the present moment is given by our thoughts, speech, beliefs, actions, and our attitudes. And those, we have dominion, we have choice in the matter of what we say, what we perpetually think. Yes, there's the monkey mind, but what are we going to empower as thoughts? What are we, because we can also think lots of things. What are we going to consciously say to the people that we're interacting with? What is the attitude that we're approaching life with? Do I have a choice in my attitude? Our beliefs are much more deeper grooves in thought. Repetitious thoughts become more solidified beliefs, but that we can and shift our beliefs over time, and that they're a choice. And given that we're aware that who we're being is a combination of all those things.
And a disclaimer, spirit is like the light that illuminates all this. So it's like spirit is illuminating through us, and then all these things are occurring.
Yes.
God, spirit, unconditional love, what source of life, whatever the word is that you want to use for that being, that
Cool.
present.
And the reality is that we all have many fragmented egoic thoughts and aggregated things that are going to permeate into our mind, into our thought, speech, beliefs, action, and attitude. And that is as my dad would say, is spiritual warfare, or mindfulness. But those things are, they are coming in, and can we be aware that they're coming in? Can we be aware that we have a choice to become them or shift and be aware of them, process them in whichever way we need to, but ultimately that they are not dictating our experience of life.
And I love this idea. A big part of this work is about being present in the moment, in the present moment. The premise is who we are made to be, who we are naturally. Our nature, our being is love. It is our nature to be unconditionally loving. That's actually how we were created. And in the present moment, we have a choice. But often our mind is habitually orienting towards the future, thinking in anxiety of like, well, what about this or thinking about the past? How did I do that? Should I have done this? Can I get more of that? Instead of just being in the present moment. So a lot of this work is about coming back to the present moment, because that's the only place to experience love. Like, we know we love each other, but if we're not actively choosing to create conditions where we're experiencing it with each other in the present moment, we're not fueling the fire of that love. We're not maintaining that love. That love will get, slowly start to degrade. Everything degrades in this universe over time if it's not tended to. So this is just like a framework for tending to love so it can flourish.
And yeah, that we can put love in the present moment in our relationships, and we can continuously do the spiritual warfare to get everything out of the way such that we can experience this profound love.
And love doesn't need a tool. It doesn't need a method. It doesn't need anything to express itself. Like, we can express love. We don't need anything to do that. But it's helpful to have some things to go to that are tools, that are frameworks, that we create as habits to help us inch us back into love.
I'm going to make one comment just to echo a point that you're making, like sitting in the presence, right? Like it's great in theory, but it's like, okay, how the hell am I going to do that? It's like, I have a to-do list that's a mile long, and I've got a Google Calendar that looks like a complete bloodbath. But to echo your point, love is actually like this geyser that is opened upon presence. And I say that because I have firsthand account in my own life. We'll do let's say it's a plant medicine ceremony where you've got no other option but like, boom, you're right in the present moment. And all of a sudden I'm overwhelmed with how much love I have for this woman. Or we go on vacation and I am actually able to disconnect to some degree from the to-dos or from beating myself up from the decisions I made a week ago that are now manifesting in, XYZ problematic issues in my life. And I'm actually distanced enough from the monkey mind that all of a sudden this again, overwhelming feeling of love for my wife or my family or, the relationships that I have in my life, like comes upon me, and it's so much more tangible. And it's when I'm in that monkey mind state that I'm like, I know it's there, but I can't, full body experience it like I can when I'm actually facilitating spaces in my life to experience enough presence that love can actually, quite literally birth from within me. And so just echoing the point that you've made around presence, like it seems very theoretical because there's been times where I'm like, oh yeah, okay, great. Let me just go be present here. But if you can, whether it's haphazardly or maybe something, around the work that you do, start to build strategies for presence, the work is actually that. It seems like it's less about like trying to conjure up love from deep within you. Your point, you're nailing it. It's like it is housed within you if you give it a little access,
Yeah. Presence is just the unstoppering. Like it's like your love has a cork in it sometimes when you're in the day to day, and like we need our to-do list. Like we're business owners. You guys are like doing a million things. Like your life doesn't function without those to-do lists and like, okay, I got to do this, got to do that. And so it's not that we have to shun those things, but it's just a realization. It's an awareness, I think. And so if you guys could maybe, we could pull on that thread a little bit, speaking to presence, because I think it's one of those words or terms that's like overused and misunderstood, or like the moment you think that you're present, you're already like out of presence. So maybe if you could share some practices, like if a couple is listening right now or someone's listening right now and they're like, yeah, I know me and my husband or me and my spouse, partner, whatever, are not present with each other. There's, things like this that keep us from being present with each other, our phones, all these things. What are some practices that people can engage in on a regular basis to facilitate, to harness more of that presence in their life?
Another kind of a foundational tool that we use in our relationship and is also foundational within the Kindred Spirit Workshop is this idea or process of clearing. Essentially clearing out what's in the way of that, you said, taking that cork out of the bottle of love that is a geyser, that is this infinite source of love. How do we clear out what is in the way of that love? So there's this process of clearing, which I would love to offer because I think it's a great tool for those that are listening to simply be able to be in a what we were earlier saying, like a wound on wound, or just an unconscious moment of, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious, I haven't gotten to my to-do list, you're needing me to do something in a way that is, I don't want to do it. I think, different priorities, and it just becomes like this two egos stuck. And, here's a process called clearing.
When those things, when it's needed. Yeah.
When it's needed, or it's just, or you just feel like, I think everyone can relate to this. You're in a relationship and you're just moving in the house, the kids, it just becomes mechanical and there's just no presence of love. You're just, sort of doing business in the household.
Yeah. Business partners.
Yeah.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not even that there's a problem. It's a problem that it's not a problem that you're on autopilot. There's no love, no connection. You're just essentially fulfilling logistic,
Right.
So how do you...
Let's clear. Would you want to clear one of them? I think that would be ideal.
Yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
So it'd be fun to walk one of you guys through the process. It kind of goes like this. One of us is going to ask you a question, and then you'll answer somewhat succinctly. We'll ask you to get in touch with an emotion that you're present to. And then we'll have you take a moment to actually feel that emotion. Then we're going to ask you another question, and we'll wrap it up. It's pretty straightforward. And then afterwards, we can kind of go through and share a few more bits of the details of it, of the framework. Does that sound
Great?
Yeah, sounds good. Do you want to be
Clear
clear?
me.
Yeah,
Clear me.
I am sensing that Chase needs some clearing.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Chase. Okay, so just close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. What version of something's wrong or something's missing are you listening to right now, or you've been listening to recently?
Angry Chase.
angry?
So what I'm hearing you say, Chase, is that the version of something's wrong or something's missing is you've been listening to what you're calling angry Chase.
Yes.
And when you're present to angry Chase, what's the feeling underneath that?
Fear or fatigue?
Okay. So fear or fatigue. Anything else?
I fear letting people down. So I get angry when I feel like I'm getting pulled in multiple directions. Let's say my calendar's full with very, intense meetings, and I just don't have the capacity to take it on. And I tend to get angry as a defense mechanism for what I perceive to be my fear of letting those people down who quote unquote need me. And then there's a component of that, which is just quite literally fatigue, sleeplessness, lack of proper hydration, nutrition, things of that nature.
Great. So I'm hearing you say, fear of letting people down, fear of, there's all these, things that you have to do and you're not going to fulfill your expectation. You're going to let them down. And so, yeah, fear of letting them down. And then there's another layer, which is fatigue, which is just lack of proper nutrition, sleep, self-care.
Yep. Nailed it.
Thank you for sharing. Can I ask you another question?
Yes.
Chase, what are you grateful for in this now moment?
Freedom to choose where I live, how I spend my time. I feel a lot of autonomy at this point in my life.
I'd love to acknowledge you, Chase, for being super courageous and for being bold and for being a leader and also for being a good man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
He is such a good man.
So that's
How do you,
yeah. How do you feel?
I feel really nice. Yeah, I mean, it was very helpful kind of like walking through, acknowledging and almost exercising some of those, what manifest as anger for me, which kind of looks like just, dropping an F-bomb every now and then, or like getting off a call and being like, oh my God, my friggin' schedule or whatever. But to then not leave it without some form of alchemy, which is, what you walked me through, which was this beautiful pivot into acknowledging what I'm grateful for. And funny enough, that I just said freedom and autonomy intuitively, but it's so connected to also the stresses that I have. Because I have the freedom to do what I want, I've made choices to participate in these various endeavors that require, when I take a week off, like I did last week, to go to Mount Shasta for a men's retreat and come back with a tidal wave of work. Like, it is because I've had the freedom and the autonomy to choose the work that I get to do and the choices that I get to make in the form of travel and my own schedule. And so it's like, it is this full circle realization and alchemizing experience to go through that back into gratitude and realize they're actually quite literally related to each other.
very cool.
Beautiful.
Well, I love this process. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, that we're talking about presence, and you guys gave this wonderful tool for clearing. How does that work? Do you need a facilitator, or is this one partner speaking to the other, or are you doing this for yourself? How does that work?
The amazing thing about the clearing first of all, I went to a graduate school to become a marriage and family therapist. And in the first year, we learned how to create a container for a therapeutic container. And I ended up taking a leave of absence before I finished my degree, but I was blown away because in that first year, the very foundation of a clearing, it's like a mini therapeutic container, just like a very efficient, beautiful framework. And Ryland, did you want to speak to that? Because I would be excited to keep sharing. Okay, but I just want to make sure, because I know you wanted to say something before. Okay.
I just wanted to say so.
That makes two of us. Yeah, so it's a mini therapeutic container. It's amazing. You don't need a facilitator. Anyone can do it. You can have a conversation with your mom and lead and touch on these key points, and she would not even know, and you would have a moment of a deeper sense of connection with each other, and might even help, lighten the load of whatever it is she's struggling with in the background, right? Because that's the interesting part. It's like everything was fine. You were totally great, Chase, right? But then given the space to just drop in a little bit, you find that there's something got lifted up.
Sure.
You feel reinvigorated afterwards, right?
Absolutely.
First question is usually designed to just give space to just articulate what it is that's been weighing us down, what's challenged us, what's in the background operating that we're just that's coming along for the journey with us usually. Give a moment to address whatever's there. And for me and Ryland, I don't often ask, when we clear each other, I don't ask him what's something wrong, what version of something wrong or something's missing have you been listening to? Formal that way, I often will just ask him, what are you present to right now? What are you present to? What's there for you? And we've done this so many times together that we just know to share. It's a vulnerable opportunity to share whatever.
Yeah, it's a call to vulnerability, and you'll resist it. We resist it
every time. Every time.
I feel like I'm just going to pause you there for a second and pull on that thread for 5 seconds, because I feel like if I noticed Chase was in a state that he just explained for himself, that it was affecting him in a certain type of way, and I came to him and I said, what's present for you or whatever, I feel like you'd know exactly what I was doing. And I can see that there might be some resistance. And same for me, if I'm in a little huffy moment and I'm like, I don't need you to therapy me right now. Just let me be angry or whatever. Do you guys, when you get that resistance.
So that's
sometimes that's the moment too. And sometimes we resort into growling a little bit, low growler.
So yeah, I mean, it ultimately everything is a muscle, right? What muscles in relationship are we strengthening? And it's a muscle to, all right, I'm in resistance, but I know this works. Can I step into the discipline of working with the tool that I know that works? And sometimes, resist and growl and say, I don't want to do that. No, thanks.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a higher sort of spiritual agreement within the context of the relationship that is, this relationship is about awakening. And if we're disconnected, there's work that we need to do. And we're both agreed at the highest level of commitment that we can't defer that. We can defer it in a moment, but the ultimate commitment is to come back to what is in the way of our love and actually doing that work. And when we are willing to come back to that's what we're committed to, the clearing, the framework, another way to frame it is, what's distracting you from this present moment? Because that's a little, sometimes, what are you present to do? Yeah.
It be a little bit.
And we can feel, the ego can feel attacked.
Sure.
Oh yeah. It's like, I'm fine. I'm fine.
You can tell I'm in my head. So she's asking me what I'm present to because she's trying to pull me out of my head, get into the present moment.
I want to pause there too. Cause sometimes I'll be honest, like there's an ego that can enjoy being the therapist or the one who sees when they're in their head and like wants to, let me help you, my dear. And this is a really interesting part about when you start to embark upon awakening and relationship and tools for personal development, how the smart rat, we call it the smart rat, steals the tools. We're so like, but I can see how if he could just get how he's not being fully loving in this moment, and then it would be okay. Well, really, okay, so there's two things that happen for me in those moments. It's a red flag if I can't feel my heart. I know it's the smart rat. If it's still met with like, ksh, 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 and there's not a release, there's a smart rat happening somewhere. So it's like, how much can I surrender? How deeply can I surrender? And his dad has an awesome saying. It's like, would I rather be right or would I rather be kind? Would I rather just love, accept, let go of my analysis of him in this moment? Remember, I don't know actually what's going on for him inside, and get curious and just love him the way he is. And so I can't tell you how many times we've had like, I've done the most spiritual holding space.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I go to the other room and I'm like, I can't feel my heart right now. I feel a little bit right. I'm like, gotta go in and apologize. Gotta go back and apologize. And then it's like, all right, babe, I love you. And then that's the other tool that we really wanted to talk about is apology. But let me just finish the framework real quick about the clearing. So let's ask a question. And then the key is just listening without putting anything in the space and reiterating what they said as verbatim as you can. And it doesn't have to be everything they said, but if you can catch verbatim a few of the words that they said, it gives them an experience of like, I'm heard. Yeah. They get me. And it's the greatest gift you've ever had.
And, I think probably in your audience and in you guys, we all know this term holding space, right? I think it was even said already. The process of clearing is a really great, practical applied process of holding space for another. And that's a good context for it, because if we think about it, we're fixing or changing them. That's so not the context of the clearing. The context of the clearing is holding unconditional love and space around someone to share where they are in their process and allow them to come to a new discovery, to a new awareness, such that they resolve themselves out of their own trap. Yeah. It's not, and in the moment it becomes about you trying to solve their problems for you, they're going to dig in and defend their problems, So that's from a energetics and from a context perspective, it really is, the clearing is a holding space,
Yeah.
allowing
It's coming up.
allowing them to share what's present. And again, that's why the recreation is just as neutral as possible, being a mirror for them to see where their attention is. And when their attention is on that, they have this experience. And then there's an opening for them to go, oh, wow, my awareness is there. I am trapped by that feeling. That doesn't feel good. Wow. And then there's an invitation for a new place to bring our awareness, which is the second question.
Wait, sorry. Before you get to the second question, getting to an emotion. So like letting yourself be with the emotion fully, be present with it, your own medicine will emerge out of that. Just like when you, like you said, after the clearing, you're like, wow, it really felt good to just be with that part of my experience, just to be with it, because your own medicine will come out of it. And then the second question, shifting your attention. What are you grateful for? What do you love about your life? And then giving the other person an opportunity to acknowledge. So like to call out and to see, to articulate, to become the voice of spirit, to channel God in the moment through your heart and your words for the other person. Like, wow, I acknowledge you for being so courageous and really feeling it.
Yeah, I got moved to tears when I said you're a good man. I didn't know. I mean, like,
Felt true.
Yeah, just
Thank
what
you.
there was to say.
So yeah, the acknowledgement is for qualities of being, not like you did your homework or you did your to-do list or you paid your car payment or those are important, but what are the qualities of discipline, devotion, care, kindness, generosity?
Yeah.
So acknowledging for qualities of being,
Not doing.
and
how you know you acknowledged well was that you feel moved.
that's
And I know we have not that much time left, but
we got as much time as you guys need, so we can keep rolling. But I mean, it's just like what I love so much about that framework is that it's like pop spirituality free, because kind of like what Mimi was mentioning, we've been in the work for a while, and you start to just like rehearse rhetoric, and it's disconnected from the actual like magic and medicine behind it. And sometimes you get the holding space work with somebody or something or a facilitator, and then you're getting bombed with like the most cliche pop spirituality terms that have lost their meaning. And so I love that this is like, it's almost like throwing up a huge mirror and just saying like, hey, I'm going to hold the mirror for you.
Yeah, it's like giving your partner a microphone and then just fully hearing them and acknowledging whatever's coming out. And I did want to just mention that, the last part where you're acknowledging your partner and like for qualities of being, not doing, like you don't have to be in a clearing to do that. And I think that we can all do a better job of that on a regular basis, because this is something that I talk to women about, because women are really good at finding all the ways that their husband isn't just like them and doesn't do everything just perfectly just like they do. And I think that can be a trap. And you think that you're helping them by telling them how to do something. And it's just our lives are just going to be better if you just do it like I want you to do it, whatever. And it creates this pattern of him never feeling like and it can go both ways. It's not just always the woman towards the man. It absolutely can go both ways. But this is a pattern that I see a lot, and most women have no idea that they're even doing it. And so I think something that, can be exchanged within partners on a daily basis is just that recognition. Like when I, rubbed his back and told him, or, said like, oh, he is such a good man. Like I try to do that as much as I can, but I know I can do a better job of it. And it feels so good to speak into your partner. And if that's a foreign feeling to you, like that's definitely some medicine that your relationship could use. Even if words of affirmation is not your top love language, every human wants to be seen, acknowledged, and loved for who they are. You don't have to have words of affirmation at the top to receive that gift from your partner. You don't need to go overboard, but I think that that's something that we can all do. And you don't need to be in a clearing to do that. You can be across the room and just be like, babe, you work so hard and you provide for our family so well. And I'm just so proud of you. Like that, it can be that simple.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's so great segue, because the other three tools that we wanted to kind of at least get seeds for in the conversation are apology, request, and acknowledge.
Great. Let's do it.
It's to just sort of continue to champion what you just shared as far as acknowledgement. We say that acknowledgement is the currency of a healthy community or a healthy relationship. And we can all see that in our lives when we remember the early days of being in love with a partner. And basically, if you had a microphone or a fly on the wall, it was just acknowledgement fest all day long.
Yeah. It's so easy. It's so easy to access.
Your awareness is on everything. So you're looking through love, and love is seeing all these micro nuances of beauty that this other person is reflecting. And then we're so excited to share and acknowledge those things. And then 3 months, 3 years, 30 years goes down, and, we look into those relationships and,
if we haven't cleared it out, they've become,
and this is
something else.
Parent, children, this
Sure.
is husband, wife,
This actually was what almost had us split up. When we were dating, I had been unconsciously, I didn't even know what was going on, but one day it came to him and I was just like, something's wrong. Like, he was like, well, okay, what do we want to do about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I love you in the depths of my heart, but I just feel like I just don't want to be next.
She said, I feel repulsed by you. That watch.
And we were both easy saying, wow, I want to say
hard one.
with things in the house too.
Yeah, I mean, we've been there. Yeah, we've been there.
We've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, not knowing how to do it, not knowing what's the cause of this, I don't know, but feeling in and like there's a deep well of love for this man. I'm like, but I love you. And my heart says, my intuition says I want to be with you, and I don't know why this is happening, and I'm sorry. And we just held that space for each other. He held that space for me. I held that space for myself, even though it was hard and I wanted to judge myself, make myself wrong, run, but we just sat with it. And then I really, whatever it was, really illuminated to me what was happening in my mind. All the little micro judgments, just like day to day, judge, compare. And like, it was killing. It was snuffing out the love that was there. And so I started shifting my mind, being more, I started to put my mind and my heart more in check. I realized that I had a responsibility. I wanted to experience love, that I had to be responsible with my thoughts. Was I going to be entertaining judgment, or was I going to be in comparison, or was I going to be really fully all the way committed, even in my thoughts? So.
Yeah. And so, the acknowledgement, as you said, it's all day, every day. It's, can we see their qualities of greatness and continuously be a source of reminding ourselves and reminding them of who they are, and
we forget, sometimes we fall short. Sometimes our partner won't be able to hold that seed of love for us. Sometimes we'll have to hold it for ourselves as well.
But yeah, absolutely. But the sweetness of relationship is when, and again, it's an indicator. Can we see in our relationship? Because the mind will go, but it's not authentic.
Oh, an acknowledgement.
It's not authentic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's not authentic because we're actually, as Sarah's saying, she started having thoughts and affirming those thoughts and those beliefs more than she was affirming those thoughts and beliefs and speaking into existence what what there was to acknowledge, what there was working, what was beautiful about our relationship, about me. And
for the record, he's been like hands down, like just the depths of my heart, like medicine, love, kindred spirit, whatever you want to call the possibility of falling in love with what you would call your soulmate, your spirit mate, the person that you feel like is your kismet. He's that for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we say to each other, you're me. Like, you're me. It feels like you're me. So we get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that is just another context for acknowledgement is the recognition that, and to speak to what you said, you're me, like, can we, sometimes we're holding back because we want them to say something before we say something.
Mm-hmm.
Goes into the next tool, yeah.
But again, another one of the frameworks is being 100% responsible for the condition of our relationships. Mm. So a leader always takes 100% responsibility.
That's
and
so
is
good.
First. So I'm always going to, forge into the acknowledgement, the appreciation. And she's doing that too, such that, whoever is falling short or, there's one of us is going to show up and plunge through that wall into acknowledgement, opening that space for the recognition and the experience of seeing each other and reigniting that appreciation and love for each other. So, acknowledgement.
Do you want to try it? Do you guys want to try it with each other?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Because you said you had wanted to acknowledge him, or no? You sure you should each other? Chase,
Chase, acknowledge your wife for, acknowledge your wife.
You are my love. You are heart-centered. You jump into whatever your heart tells you to 100%. You don't let distractions or self-doubt get in the way. And your love and spirit is contagious for everybody that's a part of what you have going on.
Thank you. I feel that.
Beautiful. Yeah. So again, it's a practice. And again, we resist it, but at a highest level, we've, agreed to, are we going to be the source of love in our relationship? And that's one way of doing it in as sourcing words of love and acknowledgement.
Amazing.
I think our baby's going to wake up soon as the whisper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's just, we can do these two quick. Apology. This is key. I'd say this may be the saving grace of relationship is apology. And apology is slightly different in our distinction, different than being sorry. I'm sorry. Oftentimes we think of sorry being I'm lower, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm shameful, I'm sorry.
Right, I'm wrong.
Sure.
Where apology is, we hold it in that it's like the god Apollo. It's a godly act. It's an act of taking responsibility for the condition of your relationship, even if you don't know even if it wasn't your intention that is leading to that outcome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Ryland is feeling like I said, hey babe, the light turned red. And he says, I know how to drive. And I say, yeah, the light turned red. Or he feels a little twinge of like, She's telling me what to do. Like, I saw the light turn red. Why did she have to say that? And I could apologize for, I didn't say you're a bad driver. I didn't say, hey, don't crash that car. I didn't, I just said the light's about to turn red. But I could take responsibility for leaving him with the experience that I think he's a bad driver. He's like, well, I just really feel like it was like, you think I'm a bad driver. Well, I'm sorry that I left you, that what I said left you feeling like I think you're a bad driver. I'm sorry about that. That's an apology. One example.
One easy.
Well, it's relevant. So well done.
Yeah. We all know about driving partner and them having an opinion of how we should do, right? And
I'm usually like, I said slow down from the back seat.
But yeah, I mean, basically the condition of relationship is you're going to lead to many moments where you're wound on wound, which is basically someone said something, my wound gets reactivated, I lash out, and now we're
honestly, I was struggling to find an example because I'm the one that's usually, hey, what do you mean? Why'd you say that? Why'd you do that?
We're just, I don't matter. No one listens to me. I'm not good enough.
We react.
I can't get anything right. These two wound moments. And then apology is just a salve, a dissolving agent that just, there's no assignment of blame. Hey, babe, I totally apologize. I said, the light is red. And I can see that, you heard it like I was questioning whether you could drive. And I apologize. That wasn't my intention. And it just totally can disarm the ego's sort of armory that just has, latched into place.
To protect itself, usually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And so, it's, again, apologizing all day long for where we react, where, or we can even...
Apologizing all day long sounds terrible. But apologizing when it's important, when it's valuable, yeah.
Yeah, I'm making a point that...
hopefully the interactions are not all day long where it's like, if that's all day long, there's probably something a little deeper. But I totally know what you mean because, once a day or every other day or something, there'll be a moment where you say something meaning one thing and then your partner hears something else and you're like, wait, I don't, this was my problem in part one is like, I don't feel like I need to apologize because I only had good things in my heart when I said this thing. And, so I totally get that. We still have those moments after 17 years. And, you're never done. So it's really good to just acknowledge that these things can always be improved upon. Okay, so we got apology. What's next?
Acknowledgement, apology. Oh no.
Yeah, and request.
Yeah.
Request. Okay.
And the thing that we didn't kind of say that the Holy Trinity of if there's someone in your life that you have a loss of love with and you're avoiding them and not wanting to have communication with them, you've sort of written them off, and yet they're important. And ultimately, if you look at your life, you actually want to restore love in that relationship. The Trinity of apology, request, and acknowledgement is a powerful, powerful triage for how to approach that conversation. What do I need to say? If your mouth is moving, all you're saying is you're apologizing for something, you're making a request of how you want it to go in the future, and you're acknowledging how that human being has contributed to your life. Mm-hmm. And so that Trinity is very, very powerful. And just to give a little bit more color and distinction around request, request is a way to, in a very unthreatening way, create agreement for how we can move forward in a way that works for both people. So a request, and what we say about requests is you have to mentally prepare yourself when you ask to make a request that you're always free to hear yes, no, or get a counter offer. So a request is really just an invitation for how something can go moving forward. And you have to be open and resolved for, that you could get a yes, no, or counter offer.
But Ryland is a master at making requests. He makes requests all day long. He's raised millions of dollars for his organization, for the film. He makes requests professionally, you could say. And so I really love hearing from this part of it from you too.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know if you guys ever heard of landmark education.
Yep.
I did about 10 years of participation. Request is a big distinction in that work. But basically, it also is a strengthening tool, because most human beings, we get a few no's, and we're kind of like fleas in a canning jar. You put a flea in a canning jar, you close the lid, we bounce and hit our head on a no, a no, a no, and then we basically think there's no more possibility above that roof. So request is, and making bold request is kind of a access point to swinging out into the world and allowing things to be created that aren't happening right now. And it really is this, making bold requests is like, hey, we're going to get lots of no's in life, but making requests is actually allows to gamify that getting no's is actually an opportunity. It actually just strengthens our ability to be making requests. And so, when we resolve that, when we're making a request, we're okay with the yes, no, or counter offer. It gives us the freedom, and that's actually why I am able to make big, bold requests, is that I'm really okay with, and I even walk people through, I'm really happy with a no, or if you have a different idea, but the unattachment of the framework of request really allows us to jump into action and jump into creation, and dancing for possibility, where we're oftentimes in mental analysis paralysis, because we think we have to get it right, or we have to have all the answers, where a request actually is a deployment into a interaction, a dialogue, a community interaction that can actually open up possibilities that we can't perceive in this moment. So requests really, we oftentimes say that there's lots of things that don't exist in the world because we're unwilling to make requests. But when we have the freedom to make requests because we're resolved in yes, no, or counter offer, then we can swing out and be bold in those requests, unattached, have done the inner work that a no just means no, not right now, not from this person, but it then does give us access to be able to continue to make those powerful requests. And so this is in relationship about, what we want to do as a family on vacation, or, how we want to structure our day, or, what kind of food we want to be eating, or what kind of activities we want our kids to be allowed to do or not to do.
I recently made a hilarious request. I was like, Ryland, can we practice washing the dishes when we put them down in the sink? And ironically, it was right after he put a dish in the sink, not like, Chris, not like I've left some dishes, and I was like, can we commit to washing our dishes?
So is there, with the request, is there a go-to phrase or line, or is it just however you want to phrase it to your partner? Because there are requests that are like, hey, I need you to rinse off your plate before you put it in the dishwasher. Some might call that a request when it's more of a statement, versus something like, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? Or, can I make a request, or can I make a simple request, or something like that? Is there like a go-to phrase that you guys prefer?
Always a little charge when a request is being made, but we have the agreement to hold space for each other, and yes.
Yeah. Hey, babe, I have a request.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
Okay. And again, there's certain things like there's things that are not requests that are mandatory. So there's requests, and then there's this is what I need to happen, and those are oftentimes in business, it's like this is the agreement of how something needs to get done. That's not a request. But if someone's doing something, like slightly out, hey, can I request that you
place your socks in the hamper instead of on the bathroom floor? He doesn't ever do that, but
so but in the truest sense of the definition of request really is something that is an invitation. You're inviting a new agreement to be made about how we do things, and we have to be the freedom the freedom to make the request is also it has the agreement that we have the freedom to hear a counter offer of that request. But ultimately, it leads to two people getting to resolve in a new pathway and a new agreement how we're going to do something going forward.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. And I think a lot of issues in relationship stem from people just being on different pages or having different expectations of certain situations or each other without communicating them. And then you just, think that your partner is going to magically think the way that you do. And that doesn't happen. We are different. I'm one of the people that has the controversial opinion that men and women are different. And, we think differently. We're motivated. Yeah, we're motivated by different things. And if you think that your husband or your wife should think just the way that you do, it's like there's an underlying thing there that you probably need to address.
He's going to go get Phoenix and he'll come say.
Cool.
But yeah, no, I think that's great. And for our audience to reiterate, the acknowledgement, apology, and request, I think are three things that every couple could probably do better in some way, shape, or form in their relationship.
Really great. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that framework with us. It's really, really good.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. And people can check out WeBeLove.com is our, we have a podcast there, and that's also where we're starting to put up where we're having, when we're scheduling our workshops for the Kindred Spirit workshops. And, that's where people can reach out. We're also open to doing relationship coaching, counseling, because, and again, this is all kind of in a brand new exploration of stepping into this role. It's not something that we've historically done as a career, but it's something we've done as just who we are in community. And so it's exciting to be able to more broadly give people the access to tools that allow for more love to
Absolutely.
be. Yeah. The world needs it. I think that there's a lot of couples out there that genuinely love each other that just don't know how to communicate or don't know how to access their feelings or don't know how to be vulnerable together. And having tools like this is very, very helpful. Not only for us, we learn from every single podcast interview that we do, but I know this is really helpful for our listeners, and we'll put all of those links and resources in the show notes, you guys. The workshops, the book, Kindred Spirit, we will have a link to that. Is that on Amazon? Okay, cool. And then your guys's podcast, and if somebody really wants to go deep with you guys and do some counseling or coaching, that's a great option too.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We've had a lot of really beautiful conversations around a relationship, and these are novel concepts, and the framework is like very, very tangible and obviously resonated with both of us. But speaking for myself, perfectly dropped on my life today, and so really, really grateful for both of you and the work that you're doing, and just the gigantic hearts that you both have.
Yeah, we feel it. It's awesome.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for stepping into doing something in partnership like this podcast. I know that is beautiful and can be challenging and also makes a difference. And so thanks for that. And thanks for supporting Niels and his journey. I love Niels.
Yep.
Compadres over many years.
Yeah.
And so, and he's actually contacting me. He wants to help kind of grow the whole Kindred Spirit brand, and
good.
This to be something that other couples and the people facilitators can take up. We're in that well with
Very
him.
cool.
Well, consider us an extension of you, and we're happy to help in any way. But super grateful to both you and listeners. Definitely check these guys out.
Yep. All the links will be in the show notes, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you next time. Go spread some light. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.